Welcome to the second video in a series of 6 about becoming strategic with robotic process automation. This one is about resolving key selection challenges. There are many selection challenges. People tend to go for a range of options when you're looking at sourcing. You could do it yourself, you could do it to yourself with advisors or consultants. You could just hand it over to advisors. You could use your BPO service provider. If you look at the diagram, I list out these options. There are about 6 in all. There is one which I think is going to be increasingly popular, which is using RPA as a service. Now, when you look at the leading organizations, the ones that we have researched, the top 20%, if you like, who are getting superior business value from their RPA, they tend to build their own in-house capability, but use advisors because they lack the experience that those advisors actually can bring. And this seems to be a relatively wise choice in my experience. So there's that issue of choice, the sourcing approach. The other component in this is which vendor, which technology, which version of RPA do you go with? And that's a difficult challenge because there are at least 54 vendors offering something they call RPA, but of course it's not all the same. There are enormous variations often between what one vendor says is RPA and what another says is RPA. If you look at the next figure, we'll see the dilemma here, which is that there are at least 4 archetypes of RPA tools, increasingly becoming platforms. The first one is really a form of desktop RPA or assisted RPA, whereby essentially what happens is the software copies what you do on a desktop and then it's automated by just replicating what you do. The second is enterprise server-based RPA, which tries to link the software that does the process to other enterprise systems in a relatively secure way and in a way that you can scale relatively easily how you use the RPA. The third one is more a form of a user application interface that's relatively friendly with some software, but then you have to do an awful lot of coding. I could call that a self-development kit. And the fourth one is a really interesting area which I see massive potential in, already some examples in the marketplace, which is RPA as a service, or drawing down from a service provider through the cloud your RPA capability and paying for it on a pay-as-you-go basis. All these have advantages and disadvantages, so it's very important to understand what your precise objectives are before you choose between which archetype is the one that you're going to go for. But increasingly, they're all majoring on becoming basically a platform which you can connect up with relatively easy cognitive automation technologies as they become available. So connected RPA is what they're all trying to migrate to as at October 2019. I'm not going to talk about the other part of that diagram, which is about cognitive automation. We're going to deal with that another day in another video altogether. And I'm certainly not going to talk about AI because as yet we're not finding many examples at all of true artificial intelligence technology that is using computers to replicate how minds work. We're not finding really any examples of that in business use as of this moment. I want to go back to one issue, which is why would you do it yourself rather than, say, give it to your BPO service provider? Well, if we look at this figure, I spell out a few reasons why you would go for in-house capability rather than use your BPO service provider. and some reasons why you might not, why you would prefer your BPO service provider. My basic instinct, and having written many books about outsourcing, is that it's very difficult to control technology if you outsource it and don't understand it. So there is a rationale, however much it costs, of building a retained capability initially. Once you understand it, you can then outsource something that you can write a detailed contract for and that you can monitor the results of and have intelligent conversations about with the service vendor. Too often what has happened in the past in outsourcing is that vendors have taken advantage of the fact that you have outsourced to them and you don't really understand how they arrive at their results, and you're only judging them on outcomes, and maybe they take a bit too much of the value generators and charge you too much as a result of this. And the danger is that this might pass off into RPA practices and way it's deployed. So build your own in-house capability initially and then start thinking seriously about outsourcing the capability to a service provider, especially as the market is still relatively immature in, for example, using cloud and using service provision through the cloud from a third party. So this is going to develop. The capability out there is going to mature. You're going to have very competent suppliers. There are already a couple. They're probably underused at this stage, in my view. But nevertheless, build your own capability initially, and that helps you in all these selection processes.